Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with Martin for our match preview for Ipswich Town against Aston Villa. This time playing on a Sunday, the Sunday 2 p.m. kickoff, but it's a big game nonetheless, and we're going to talk you through. We're going to get into the tactics, we're going to get into the news at the press conference, we're going to talk about the threat that Ipswich might pose, and obviously get our predicted 11s in and our predicted score lines for Sunday as well. Make sure you smash that like button and hit that subscribe button. We are about 15 away from 4,700. So I think we could do that tonight if you make sure you like and subscribe. Get your comments in as well. We'll go through your questions, your comments, and your predicted scores and predicted lineups as well. So plenty of comments coming through. And yeah, looking forward to the game. Martin, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good. It's a Friday night, not a typical Friday night for me. Coming on and being on the podcast. Normally I'd like to be in bed and well asleep, but I thought
Yeah,
I'd come on.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm a young man. I'd like to be asleep by this time.
Last couple of weeks, you've been gallivanting down across to Birmingham on and out on a Friday night, ready for the Saturday match, and you've been a very lucky charm at Aston Villa these last couple of weeks, mate.
Yeah, thank God, because when I was bringing my brother and my mate, we went 2-0 down against Everton and then 1-0 down against Wolves, and I'm saying to myself, these lads are jinx. Like these lads are the jinx. I can't believe I brought my mates and my brother with me, and these are the jinx. And then we go and win the game. I'm like, thank you, Aston Villa. It's not them. It's somebody else. So uh, it was good to get the win for them, and they had an enjoyable weekend, especially me mate Dan, like that you met obviously, Rich, and we were just going mad. Like we were gallivanting on the Friday, we gallivanted on Saturday, and you see Sunday when we woke up. I swear to God, we didn't even say two words to each other. We were just that
That's
gone on energy. We were like just like this. Like, so what time's our flight? 8 o'clock. Right. You want to get food?
that's
Yeah.
definitely the sign of a good weekend, mate.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, it was this. You just yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that was it. Like we were just gone. Energy gone.
Well, look, mate, you will be back, I'm sure, in Birmingham for more games to continue that unbeaten run. But Sunday we have Ipswich at Portman Road. Obviously,
Mm,
the first time we've been there in a long time. We faced them in the Championship a couple of seasons, about 3 or 4 seasons ago. To be fair, I think it was like 2017, 2018 season. So quite a while ago. First time in the Premier League for a long time. So it's going to
mm.
be an interesting game. I mean, Ipswich, their start to the season, I don't think you could have asked for a tougher start. They had Liverpool and Manchester City in their first two games, and then their last three games, three draws. I don't know if you could say that's a bad start for a club that have just come up, really.
No, especially with the first two games against Man City and Liverpool, like if you turn around and said if they got a point against one of them and then drew the rest and obviously say lost to either City or Liverpool, Ipswich fans would have bit the hand off, of course. But at the same time, though, I don't think they can be uh like too upset because they're actually playing attractive football. They're playing the football that they want to play, and they look like a really good asset. So it's going. I do think it'll come to a time where will get a good bit of run of form because they've got such a good young team, very energetic. And Kieran McKenna, like he's working his magic at this minute,
Mm.
because he's kind of nearly had Ipswich punching above their weight now, like last season and this season at the minute. And that's not a disrespectful thing. Like it just goes to show how good of a manager he is. Like he brought them from League One, win the league, finishing second, and getting promoted, which was kind of good because I think all Villa fans wanted Ipswich to go up instead of Leeds United. So that was something that was always we were looking out for. And then they come up and they've signed some really good young players. And for me, this game, I was more concerned about this game than I was for Everton Wolves for the fact that it's away from home. They haven't. I don't think they've been at home now for the last 2 weeks because I think they drew a Southampton away and then drew a Brighton away. So a crowd's going to really pump them up.
Yeah, yeah, it is one of those, isn't it? I had the podcast Talking Town on Mark from the Talking Town podcast, and I titled the podcast Ipswich could be a potential banana skin for Aston
Oh,
Villa, and I
yeah.
guess it is that. sort of sense of the unknown. Everything points to the fact that we should be winning. But like you say, the fact that Ipswich have had 2 games away from home, they can't wait to get back to home form. They've had 3 draws in a row. They just about got back into the game last week against Southampton with a 95th minute equaliser. We know what momentum that can give. The crowd will be bang up for it. All it takes is for Villa to maybe be slightly off it, or well, a fair bit off it, to be honest. But you never know. These stranger things have happened, and sometimes momentum. A couple of
Mm.
defeats, 3 draws. There's almost like the law of averages sometimes says that you due a win somewhere, and Ipswich might be thinking we're due a win, and it could be this Sunday against Villa.
Yeah, and they've every right to think that, because they've drawn the last couple of games. They put in really good performances. They probably felt like they should have bet Southampton, because
Mm.
I actually remember watching that game and I felt that they were all over Southampton, and Southampton were just like banging in their luck. And Ipswich looked really good, and I'm going to keep saying it all night because they do look like a good team, and I think they'll stay up in the Premier League. I back them to stay up as soon as they come up because they look like the best team equipped out of the other two that came up with Southampton and Leicester. Like Leicester at the minute, Steve Cooper hasn't got them ticking at the minute. Southampton, it's a championship team,
Mm.
and that's just the way it is. So with Ipswich, I think they'll stay up, and then one of the Premier League teams that have been here for a while will go down.
Yeah, yeah. Few comments. Deontay says the Villa boys just need to focus on Ipswich only for Sunday, and then after that, all attention turns to preparing for Bayern on Wednesday.
Mm.
Deontay also said, I know that it could be hard for some players when such a big game is around the corner. Yep. Michael said this is a game that will test the mentality of our players. Wrong attitude, and we lose. Kevin, no guys, Villa to stay focused. We'll get the job done on Sunday. And Gary said it will be tough, but we have to win. No excuses, lads.
Yeah.
Before we talk about Ipswich and some of their players, because you've pointed out a few of their players and obviously their manager as well, is there a risk from Villa about this game on Wednesday, the huge game against Bayern Munich? Is there a risk that sometimes some of the players might switch their attention to that game?
Yeah, there's always a risk of that because when you have a game that's like on the size of Ipswich, and that's no disrespect to Ipswich, but when you have that game against Ipswich and then literally only 3 days, you've got to play Bayern Munich, and that is going to play on the players' minds. The Champions League's coming up and against Bayern Munich. Now, if this was, say, the Champions League and it was up against Bologna, you might turn around and say the focus is going to be on the two. But at this minute, they're obviously drawing their attention to Bayern Munich.
Mm.
So it's going to be, I think it'd be a tough battle psychologically in the game. I don't think it'd be a tough battle physically. So there is no excuse not to go and win this game on Sunday.
Mm. Yeah, it is. It is that slight risk, and we'll get the starting lineups in a second. It'd be interesting to get your perspective on how Unai Emery approaches the game. I'm interested to get people's comments as well on that too. But talking about Ipswich, you mentioned Kieran McKenna, who's done a fantastic job taking them from League One into
Mm.
the Premier League. Almost, I guess, similar in terms of momentum at different times of the sort of lifespan of Villa over the last few years. That momentum that took Villa up from the Championship with Dean Smith, and then almost the momentum of finishing the season when Unai Emery came in to kind of continue that. And Ipswich will certainly be looking to sort of use that as a bit of a blueprint for what Villa did and to do that under Kieran McKenna.
Yeah, like he's done such a great job. Like he's made really smart signings too. He hasn't gone and signed like really big names. When he was in the championship, he made smart signings, made loans for young players, like exciting young players, not just bringing somebody in to say, "Oh yeah, give him a bit of game time." No, he wanted someone in that was gonna play the system really well, and he's done so well with the players that he has, and to get them promoted in his fourth season, like to do a back-to-back promotion from League One to Championship, I think is the hardest because I think you can do National League, League Two, and League One like Wrexham have done
Mm,
very easily. But I don't think you can get promoted from League One and Championship to the Premier League. It's not that easy. Very few clubs have done it back to back, and Ipswich are now obviously one of them. So it goes to show the quality of managers that they've got and the quality of players. Because let's get something straight. You could have a great manager, but you not necessarily might have a great set of players, right? We take Carlo Ancelotti at Everton, for example, a fantastic football manager. We never had great players and got them playing well above their weight in the Premier League. But with McKenna and Ipswich, it just seems to really fit. Like with us and Emery, it just
Mm.
really fits. And I think McKenna will be staying there for a long, long time. He signed a new long-term deal. Didn't want the Man United job. Didn't want any other job. He wanted to stay at Ipswich, and I have to admire him for that. He's shown maturity as a manager to say, right, I'm not ready to leave Ipswich yet. I'm not at the level that he probably thinks he's at. And for him to turn around and say that, I have to give huge respect. It's a bit like Xabi Alonso when he was linked to Liverpool and Real Madrid. He was like, no, I'm going to stay here at Leverkusen. He's done that exact same thing. So it's going to show that he's shown loyalty to the Ipswich fans and to himself.
Yeah, yeah, and you mentioned some of the players that he's got, some of the shrewd signings that he's made as well. And Gary mentioned he hasn't watched them at all, but they've signed some decent players. Now you've picked out kind of three main players, but they've also got, I
Mm,
think, a lot of their Ipswich fans were talking about Leif Davis, the right back, being a big threat for them. But the three that you've picked are Amari Hutchinson, who they had on loan last season. I think they're looking
mm,
for big things from him. Sammy Smodics, obviously the top scorer in the championship last season, and then I think he scored against Man City this season. I think he's already got off the mark in the
yeah.
Premier League. And then Liam Delap, who's quite a strong, young, young centre forward, who they're looking at, being that talisman, being that target man, and probably looking for him to burst onto the scene. He's had a few loan moves. So yeah,
Mm.
I mean, what have you kind of picked out with them? What are you thinking about the threat that they might cause Villa?
Because the threat that they might cause Villa, I mean, Amari Hutchinson is a great ball carrier. Like he really is. He can get that ball up the pitch. He can draw fouls in such dangerous areas. And that's sort of like a Jacob Ramsey with us, really. Like,
Mm.
he can bring the ball up in high areas and draw that foul. And if you don't foul him, he's going to get into such a dangerous position to get himself a goal. And then with Smodux, and this is no bias, by the way, because he obviously plays for Ireland, but he does intelligent runs in behind, like really intelligent runs in behind. Like he done it there against Man City, and they were exposed. So because we play that a little bit higher than probably most teams in the Premier League, he could get that really intelligent run in behind and expose us quite a lot. And with the lap, he's got such a presence of a strength about him that he's not afraid to bully defenders, and he's a good ball carrier too. He can get that ball high up the pitch as well, and he's a good finisher. He's shown it in the championship. He's shown it in other loan spells that he had with teams, and he's shown it now at this minute. I think he's on the one that he got against Fulham, but he's always getting himself into dangerous positions, and that's something we need to be aware of. That their front three, in my opinion, is going to be dangerous. Like defensively, they are solid, but they do give chances away, and midfield they're quite equipped as well. But I feel like their front three is really dangerous. They're getting smart runs in behind. They've got good ball carriers and a physical presence, not being afraid to bully us. So I think it's going to be dangerous for our back four. So we have to be up for this from minute one.
100%. And they've got that youthfulness, haven't they? And I guess they'll be like, look, this is a bit of a free hit for us. We can go at this game and see how we go. I mean, be interesting to see how they approach it. I
Hmm.
was talking to I did an Ipswich sort of video by myself, kind of previewing the game. And then, as I say, I was on their podcast on Wednesday talking about,
Yeah.
how you stay up in the Premier League and how Villa sort of learnt just at the right time in terms of having to be solid and having to be ruthless and sometimes having to sacrifice the football that you've played to get you into the Premier League. You have to
Hmm.
sacrifice that to keep you in the Premier League. So how do you think Ipswich approach this game on Sunday? Do they go their usual tactic and being quite attacking and sort of free flowing football that Kieran McKenna's instilled in them, or do they try and sort of contain Villa and let us have possession and then sort of try and pick us off at times?
No, I expect them to go with their usual game plan because I think in the first 15, 20 minutes of obviously them being at home, they'll be rallied up and we'll probably be on the back foot for a while, because we've shown now in the last few games we've started really slowly.
Mm.
In the first 15 and 20 minutes, and we're riding the storm, and we're under the cosh. But if we give them any sort of a chance, and this is why I said I was more concerned about this, like with their front three, if we start slow and they start fast, they could really punish us, because it's in a very exciting young front three. So I really do think they'll punish us if we're not on it from the offset. So I don't think they'll do anything different from what they know. They've shown that in the last few games as well. And I have cousins who are Ipswich fans, but they live here, but they have relatives in Ipswich. So I asked them what was their expectation of this season, and they said, we just kind of expect to finish between 14th to 17th. They don't think they'll go down, because they obviously follow them regularly, and with all the news that comes through for them. So they think with the squad that they have, they think they'll stay up. And I have to admire them for that. There's no problem with having a bit of a belief in your team's going to stay up. But getting back to the game, we have to be on it from minute one. And if we're on it from minute one, we'll probably put them away in the first half hour. But we can't be complacent at all, because they do start fast.
Yeah, yeah, and Kevin mentions there, Emery has the form for subbing players at half time. If it isn't working, he's ruthless.
Mm,
And that's one of the things, and I'll talk about the kind of motivation. A lot of people talking about the motivation that we can take from Sunday into Wednesday. So, quite a few comments on that. But moving on to Villa,
mm,
we've got, and we'll talk Emery's press conference in a second, but you've kind of touched on it about this, I guess, the semi-slow starts that we've had in terms of the last few games. I mean, on Wednesday or Tuesday, sorry, we could have gone 1-0 up inside 35 seconds,
mm.
but that's another story. But yeah, the kind of slow starts that we've had the last few games. How does Emery approach this in terms of this game on Sunday? Does he go and try and blow out the team, blow out Ipswich in the first sort of 15, 20 minutes? Or do we see that sort of controlled possession and just calm, but maybe a little bit of risk at the back?
I think we'll be control possession. I don't think we'll take any risks. With Emery being the tactical genius that he is, that he's shown in the last year and a half, really. Um, he'll he'll approach this game like every other game. What tactical situation is going to weaken Ipswich, and he'll probably feel like, right, still keep possession of the football, be smart in certain areas, try to draw them out, because they do start fast, they do press, so they're going to want to do everything they can to isolate Ipswich plans and everything else. We've shown that we don't particularly have a playing style. We just contradict what the other team will do, which has really worked for us, and that's why we finished top four. That's why we're third in the league at the minute. And if we win and depend on other results, we could be top of the league after this weekend. So I think Emery will approach this like he's approached every other single game. But I do think there will be a little bit of element of caution again, because of Ipswich front three, because of the fast start that they do have. They said if they do start fast, we ride the storm, and we've shown that we can do it. So I really think that Emery is going to approach it like every other game he has. So I'm not expecting anything different.
Yeah, yeah. Bearing the guidance that we can still be more clinical up front and more controlled at the back, which we'll talk about in a second.
Mm,
And James has brought me into a talking point that you've wanted to highlight is we need Conser back at centre back. Now, you've pointed this picture out, Conser at right back, without without giving too much away about your predicted 11.
mm.
How do you feel about the situation, Conser right back versus Conser centre back?
Look, I think Konza is a better centre back, without a shadow of a doubt, and will always be my opinion. But when we're a bit light at right back, with Ndel Djokovic is obviously a young lad, Bogarde is a young lad, Matty Cash being injured, you know, he needs Emery at some point had to go with the experience. And don't get me wrong, Bogarde done really well at right back. I am not criticising the young man whatsoever. He's put in a shift. He's been solid. But against Wolves, he don't. He like or yeah no against Wolves. No, sorry, against Young Boys when he put Konza to right back and put Carlos in centre back, we looked a lot more solid. We looked a lot more in control of the game. Then against Wolves, when you done the same thing, it was the same thing. We were in control of that game. Now, albeit I know Carlos can have a loose pass in him every now and then, but and it goes to show that he got punished for one against Wolves. But
Mhm.
even at that, we are still a lot more compact of a back four with Cons at right back and Carlos in the at the back. So until Matty Cash comes back in and he's fully fit, uh, it's just going to have to make do for the time being, because at this minute you want a comfortable back four. So it's not going to be taking any chances before this game against Bayern Munich.
I think I agree with you. And in terms of, it gives you an opportunity to change it if you have to. I think if you play Konza at right back, you've got that fair bit of solidity. We know what he's like. He's good at 1v1 defending as well. He can
Yeah.
allow, if you're playing Leon Bailey on that right hand side, he can allow Leon Bailey to just stay up. Whereas if you're
Mm.
playing Nedeljkovic, it's a bit of an unknown, and Bailey's probably going to have to come back and defend more
Yeah.
because you'll have
Cover.
to
Yeah.
cover him. If you play Bogard there, he's probably going to have to do the same. And then we've pointed out some of the threats that Ipswich have, and that's probably something that they'll want to exploit. So if you put Conser at right back, Carlos centre back, and you probably sort of you might get the odd mistake from Carlos, but you're going to get a much more solid right back and a better Leon Bailey at the moment. So I tend to agree with you on that.
Mm.
I've just put there, hit the likes, everyone. We've now sort of got over 100 watching, approaching 150 watching, which is phenomenal on a Friday night. We're obviously on X and we're on YouTube, so spread the word on X. I think you can retweet, I think you can like, and you can comment on X as well. So please keep your comments in. Please hit the like button and subscribe button on YouTube. We've got 18 likes and we've got over 100 watching, which is, come on, we can do better than that. Let's get up to that 50 likes. We can definitely do that. So make sure you smash the like button. It's totally free. Hit the like button. If you want to become a member though, and for just $1.99 a month, please just click the link at the top of the chat. It's pinned at the top of the chat, and you can become an official Villa Park Pod follower for just $1.99 a month. A couple of other talking points. You've put the Duran dilemma
Mm.
and the Watkins threat. So again, without giving too much away, do we see Duran and Watkins up front together?
With the way that Emery plays, I don't think so. I don't think that'll ever happen. Uh, I know there was talks of it from Emery that it might happen, that if Duran starts over him or Watkins starts over him, or potentially together. But I just think if you play Watkins and Duran up front together, there's going to be a player you have to drop. And at this minute with our midfield, the way it's playing, you can't drop any of them. So it's an unfortunate situation that we're in. But a situation like this, we would have cried out for years ago. And now that we're in one, we've got people going, oh, what do we do? What do we do? And I personally think that two strikers are obviously scoring this minute, but if the main one is still scoring, he's the one who has to start. And that's just the way it is. If Watkins wasn't scoring any goals now at this minute and Duran was, 100%, I'd say Duran should be starting over Watkins at this current time. But Watkins has been putting his chances away now lately. And of course, so is Duran. But if your main striker is still putting his chances away and your backup striker putting chances away, unfortunately, the main striker is still going to get ahead of you. And that's just
Yeah.
the way it is. It's a healthy competition that the two of them obviously want to be in that lineup. And it's a great situation for the two of them to be in. But it's an unfortunate situation as the Villa fan. Who do you pick? And in Emery, it's kind of like, I don't know what to do here, because you've got one person as well knocking on the door phrase is gone. He's pelting down the door, like he's absolutely banging on it to try and get a start. And, you know, I just don't think it's going to happen at any time soon. But Duran, I think, knows he will be patient. He's shown a good attitude now in the last few weeks. Like he's still scoring goals. He's enjoying his football, even if it's coming off the bench. But when he's coming off the bench, he's playing a good 40, 35 minutes. It's not 15, 10-minute stint anymore. He's playing nearly a full half.
Mm. Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. Few comments coming in, a couple around the Costa and Konza issue. So Jacob said Costa is lacking the discipline to form the back three. Bogard lacks the confidence to go forward when needed, but Concert does an adequate job. So I expect to see Carlos centre back and Concert right back.
Mm.
Paul Wolfenden says we are going to be attacking for most of this game, and Costa not used to switch into a back three when we were attacking, and Konsa is not going to run up and down the wing all game, so it's a bit of a catch-22.
Yeah.
And Gary said you could drop Bailey. And Luke says, I think we will get the win, but hate hearing when teams are strong down the left when we look so shaky at right back. Do you think we'll get a right back in the January window? We've had a fortunate run of games so far. We'll pin that question about the January. We'll maybe pin that question to later on.
Yeah.
But certainly a good question to ask. You know, the transfer rumors are already starting. So yeah, I'm sure I'll be doing
It's
some
only
transfer
September.
talk
We're on
shows.
about transfer
I
windows.
know, it's
Not even
crazy. It's
Halloween or
crazy.
Christmas yet,
I
folks. Would
know.
you just let us be?
I know. James said Duran is so good off the bench, so why change it? Jacob
Mm.
says, would it be surprised if Rogers moves wide and Ramsey benched for Duran to start? And Kev says, not a chance, Duran and Watkins together, but not yet. Anyway,
Yeah,
Gary says, Duran is the best impact sub in the world football at the moment. Give him half an hour every game. And yeah, Cloudy with a chance of UFOs says, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Don't mind Duran coming off the bench to run the tired defense ragged. We're doing well. Yes,
exactly.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, just one more sort of talking point.
Mm.
No McGinn. I
Yeah.
don't know if Emery mentioned in this press conference about how soon he was back. I think we've got news of other players back in training, which we'll come on to a bit later. But is that going to be a blow to us for
I
Sunday and the future
mm,
games?
I think so. I think I know a lot of people will slate McGinn. Oh, he was technically better at this and at that, and it looks like McGinn's punching above his weight in this Villa team. For me, I don't think so. I think he's one of our better players simply because of the leadership he has and the demand that he has of everyone on that pitch. Like he's telling players, lift it, lift it, lift it. And if he's not on that pitch, we miss it. I really do. I'm really gonna believe that. Like, even though you might think he's not the best player technically, but he's a great leader. Like we look at Jordan Henderson, for example, probably wasn't at the level of every other single Liverpool player when he was starting. But the one thing that he did do was make sure everyone was playing a standard, make sure everyone was playing at the Liverpool that he expected to be at, and he tried his best to do that. McGinn is the exact same. Like he might not be the best player technically at Aston Villa, but he's the best leader and a workforce. Like they're the players you need in your team, and if you haven't got one of them, your team struggles when not in possession of the football. And when we've been up against it at times this season, McGinn has shown why he is one of the better players off the ball with his work rate, how he can hold the ball up, win fouls in important areas, slow the game down when it needs to be. So I really think that this game on Sunday, it's gonna be a struggle if we're up against it, because what player is going to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and tell everybody we need to lift this? Probably Emi Martinez, but Emi Martinez is not one of the 10 running around. John McGinn is. So we need to be clever when we're not on the ball and when we do have it. So I think it's going to be a challenge not to have McGinn in this lineup.
Yeah, I mean, he does set the tempo in a number of games. I don't think he's quite been at his best this season. And James said he was in need of a break after the summer. You don't want people to have to be enforced a break because of injury, but it might
Mm,
do him some good to have a little bit of a rest for the rest of the season. But I definitely take your point. You know, maybe the likes of Tielemans, maybe the likes of Barkley can sort of come into the side and step up and be that driving force. And you know, Kevin's mentioned that potentially Bailey on the right gives us a bit of a different threat. And you saw the game against Wolves. As soon as Bailey was on that pitch, instead of McGinn, let's say, he just
mm,
pushed that. He pushed Eight Nori back, and I mean, I wish Bailey would have gone round the outside a little bit more. He wanted to cut in a lot, and the one or two times that he went round the outside and put across him with his right foot would cause a lot of problems. So I'll be hoping that Bailey does that a lot more on Sunday if he does
mm.
play. Um, we'll get your starting lineup on now. People in the chat, please do put your predicted lineups up as well, and give a comment on what Martin's decided. Have we got any surprises here? I've not seen it, but any surprises here for you? I
No,
don't
I
think there's
think
too much there.
no, I think the team sort of really picks itself for this weekend. Emi Martinez in goal, Ponza, Carlos, Pau Torres, Luca Dini at the back. Although I was nearly going to pick Ian Matson, but I just think Luca Dini has been on form. Tielemans, Onana is a solid partnership at this current moment in time. Morgan Rogers in the 10, Ramsey on the left, Bailey on the right, and then I've Ollie Watkins up top. Like, I just think with the link up between Rogers and Ramsey, you just cannot drop the two of them. And with Bailey on that right side, I think Rogers is really going to connect with him as well. So, I just think that, the team is really picking itself, and hopefully we can have a good bench. I know McGinn's gone, and there's other two players with an update, which we'll touch on to at the minute. Hopefully we can have a good bench, have really good options.
Well, I mean, looking at that with regards to a bench, a predicted bench, you'd be probably looking at Barkley, Duran,
Duran.
Matson, and then possibly Jaden Philogene. Obviously, we'll touch on that in a bit. So you've got strong, sorry, you've got strong players on the bench there. I was actually in the camp of maybe Ian Matson if for Luca Dean. I don't know if Luca Dean's carrying a little bit of a knock, and I don't know whether there's a slight chance of having Wednesday in mind for Unai Emery. Onana played. I mean, Barkley played the majority of the game as well on Tuesday, but was that maybe setting up Onana not to play against Ipswich? Maybe Barkley and Tielemans play on Sunday, and then Onana comes in on Wednesday. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because Emery doesn't tend to do that. He'll just keep playing the same team because he wants to give players the rhythm. He wants to let players get into the rhythm and keep playing rather than saying, right, I'll rest you for the game on Wednesday, but I'm not playing you on Sunday. Sometimes that can interrupt a player's flow. But yeah, do you think he plays it in Ian Matson instead of a Luca Dean potentially? Do you think he brings a Barkley in? I know that's not on your predicted lineup, but is there a chance that he does something like that?
Possibly, but at the same time, I don't think he should turn his attention away from Ipswich just because of the Bayern Munich game. So I think for us to have our strongest team possible, potentially get us top of the league on the weekend, if depending on other results, of course, and just take it game by game. Just because we have Bayern Munich and a big game and a chance for us to try and get a good win against Bayern Munich, if it happens, doesn't mean we take our attention off the Premier League. It doesn't mean that. So I really do think that we have to be on our game against Ipswich. It doesn't matter who we have in the midweek. It doesn't matter who we have next week. You take it game by game by game. And I don't really think disrupting any flow to the players or on form in this minute would do any good. Because if he, say, for example, he drops Onana and starts Barkley, then next thing you know, Onana might throw a fit, might throw the toys at the pram and say, why wasn't I playing this weekend? I wanted to play and I've been playing well. And Dina could be the exact same. Or other players could be the exact same. Say Ramsey comes off and Duran comes on. So I don't think, moving things about is the way to do it. I think keep it the way it is. If it's not fixing, or if it's not broken, don't fix it. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think I don't know. I don't think players will do that in terms of falling out with Unai. There'll always be a plan for what he's doing, but I do understand what you're saying in terms of it's difficult to look ahead. We're not in. I don't think we're yet in a squad situation where, like a Man City, where you can almost look ahead to games other than the Carabao Cup situation. It's like take each game as it comes, as you say, all those old cliches. Because as soon as you start looking ahead, as I say, players lose a bit of rhythm. The Premier League is the absolute bread and butter. A loss on Sunday by tinkering with the side. If you get beat fair and square, then fair enough. But a loss by tinkering the side then puts extra pressure on that next game, against Bayern Munich, or the next game against Man United next week in the Premier League, because you've kind of dropped a ball by getting beat off Ipswich. So I do understand that point. It was just more like a talking point, because we're saying that I don't think Matson in for Digne necessarily weakens that side. I don't think I don't think, trying Duran and Watkins up top together, maybe taking a Ramsey out the side or a Bailey out the side necessarily weakens the side. I don't think a Barkley coming in to start instead of Onana necessarily weakens the side. So it's just thinking about that really. But I do think that I think he will just go with keeping it the same settled side as he possibly can, and then he
Mm.
makes changes as and when he needs to. Jacob's gone with Martinez, Dina, Torres, Carlos, Konza, Tielemans, Onana, Rogers, Durant, Watkins, and Bailey. But Ramsey over Duran is equally fine. And I had another start. Luke says Martinez, Bogard, Konsa, Power, and Dina.
Mm.
McGinn, he's out though. McGinn's out. So Onana, Tielemans,
Yeah.
Ramsey, Rogers, Watkins to start for Emery. So yeah, it'd have to be someone instead of McGinn. A few people saying Nedeljkovic, but I don't. I don't think he's quite ready yet. I have to
Near the
say.
I. Like, it's not that I don't trust the young lad. I do think he's the quality asset, but I do think the Premier League is a level so far and above and beyond to what he was playing at. And I get that he backs himself. He wants to be in the team, and I admire it 100%. But he has to realize to take his time. He's still only 18 years of age, which is the scary thing as well. So he needs to bide his time. He needs to be patient. Learn from other players, and then his time will come.
Mhm.
He's still got loads of time, and he just needs to be patient. I think this season he's going to be really rotational, and then next season could be his breakthrough season.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Danny doesn't trust Carlos's liability for me with the brain. The brain fades. Yeah, we've got to watch him. He gets put under pressure by Delap or someone. There's a potentially a mistake waiting to happen. A few really good updates in terms of injuries at Unai's press conference, and you put his picture up before the
Mm,
main man, Unai Emery, gave us some great news that Boubacar Kamara and Tyrone Mings are fully in training with the team. We were kind of hoping they'd play against Wickham, but we are hopefully going to expect to see them in the next EFL Trophy game with the under 21s potentially, or an under 21s game. I would imagine it'd be the EFL Trophy, and
mm,
then potentially see them after the international break. Now, we teased the idea the other night when we talked about the Crystal Palace Carabao Cup fixture,
yeah,
30th of October, could very well be a strong Villa team with Boubacar Kamara and Tyrone Mings joining the younger players, and maybe Duran, maybe Onana, maybe Ross Barkley, maybe Matty Cash as well. That's a hell of a that's a hell of a reserve side to play against Crystal Palace with these two players coming back in. But fantastic
yeah,
news nonetheless that they're on the verge of potentially getting back involved with first team
yeah.
football.
Like, if you really think about the team, right, you could have Joe Gauchi in the back. You have Cash. You probably play Bogarde, Mings, Ian Matson. In front of them, you have Barkley, Kamara. When they in the 10, you play Caden Young out on the left, you play Philogene out on the right, and you've got Duran up top. That's a great Carabao Cup team. Like, it's almost frightening that they should win the Carabao Cup.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really good to see them coming back, and we've also. I mean, it's just fantastic news. I think Justin might have put on X that it's 14 months since Tyrone Mings will have played if he comes back in October, which is just brilliant. Boubacar Kamara has made really good progress in terms of coming back from his injury, maybe
Mm,
even a month ahead of where he probably thought he would be. So that's really good. And then I think there's been pictures of Jaden Philogene and Matty Cash both in training with the side. So, John McGinn's got a little bit of a niggly injury, but other than that, having a potential touchwood clean bill of health coming into sort of October, November, that Christmas period, will
mm.
absolutely be key for Aston Villa.
Yeah, we've got everybody fit and flying in the end of October, November, and the Christmas period. I think we'd be really comfortable how we move players, how we shift the team around. But I do have one slight concern, and that's with Tyrone Mings. Not in the sense of I don't think that he won't get into the team or anything. I think he will in terms of the period that we're going to be in. I just think, is he going to be the same player after this injury? You know, because
That's the
of his
challenge,
age,
isn't it?
because of his age, and it's no disrespect to Tyrone Mings, but with his age, he's in his 30s now. What, 31, 32, I think.
Hmm.
Uh, after an ACL injury, is he going to be the same player? Is he going to be, you know, someone that's going to be able to keep up with the pace? Because sorry, we've seen this happen to players before at the age of 30 when they get an ACL injury and then they come back. They're not quite the same player. And that's my concern for Tyrone Mings. But the one thing that will be his shining light, he'll be that voice in the dressing
Yeah,
room. He'll
yeah,
be that voice on the bench.
absolutely.
He'll be that leader that, that we've missed. Like, don't get me wrong, we had McGinn do it, but just two strong vocal voices and complete captains in our team. That I will love, but my concern is Mings getting that ACL injury, and it's a second one as well, mind you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
was he done it, I
Well,
think, at Bournemouth. So
Jacob
this
said,
one,
yeah, Jacob said it's the second ACL. He's aging, but he looks after himself well. I mean,
yeah,
that's what
that
I
is a
was
good
going
thing.
to say is that if anyone, any professional footballer would follow what the physios have told him to do by the letter of the law and gone through all of the training exercises, whether it's get out and swim at 5 a.m., whether it's doing his sitting poses against the wall at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, then 6 o'clock in the evening, it'll be Tyrone Mings. So I'm sure he will put himself in the best possible way. Just Jacob also posted this could be the team that plays against Crystal Palace, the second string, which in the Carabao Cup, which would be Gauchi, Costa, Carlos Mings, Matson, Barkley, Kamara, Ramsey, Buendia, Duran, and Philogene. I mean, that's a pretty decent side, to be fair.
It's a brilliant team. That's an unbelievable team.
So yeah, so that's an exciting prospect, and yeah, like we said, great to have the players coming back. Back to Sunday and the prospect of Ipswich. Before we talk kind of stats and get predicted score lines to kind of finish up the show, make sure you smash the like button, people. We've got almost approaching 50 likes, so I want to get 50 likes on the live stream before we finish up. So make sure you smash the like button if you haven't already, and keep retweeting, keep liking on X as well. Help us on the road to 5k. We are so close to 4,700. And also a shout out to Football Prizes who support the channel. They have a new competition out now, and it's not for one signed shirt, it's actually for two signed shirts. Matty Cash and Esri Konza signed Villa shirt display, so double shirt display on offer. It's only a week left of this prize. There's also instant prize winnings for Villa shirts as well, so lots of prizes to potentially win. As always, tickets cost just £3.95. The competition ends next Friday, the 4th of October at 7:30, and I think the draw is the day after or a couple of days after that. I entered for the Bayern Munich competition, and I'm sure a fair few of you did. I didn't win. I think there's a guy called David. If you go and have a look on the website, so good luck
I
to him.
won. I
You didn't
won.
win this time either,
I know I
Martin.
didn't. No, I
Absolutely
didn't. No, I
not.
didn't.
But if you want to win, sign Matty Cash, sign Edry Concert, double display. Make sure you head to footballprizes.co.uk and head to the Aston Villa prize and purchase your ticket. So let's take a look at some of the stats. It's been, like I say, it's been a while since we've played Ipswich in the Premier League.
Mm.
So it's a bit of a difficult one, really. But we have a very good record against Ipswich. They have only beat us once, and that was away from home.
Now, is
We've
this
had
only in the
two.
Premier League?
This is only in the Premier League, yeah.
Okay.
We've had
Okay.
two draws against them, and we've beaten them 3 times away from home. Recent meetings. Now look at this. We haven't played them since 2002,
Wow.
Martin.
I was
0-0
6
in
years of age. I was 6 years of age.
yeah, there you go. See, 0-0 in Saturday, the
I'm actually
23rd of
feeling
March.
old. You know that? Like, I'm putting on greys and all. You know what? I'm going to bed. Nighty night, folks. Past me bedtime.
2002, 0-0. 17th of December 2001, 2-1 win for Villa. And then 2-1 win in 2001, again March, a 2-1 win in September 2000. And then you have to go back to 1995 for the another game that we beat them at Portman Road 1-0. So This will be the first time in 22 years that we've played against them. So as I say, very difficult to sort of talk about any particular kind of form against each other than like
Mm,
looking at that. We do well at there, but completely different sides. In terms of recent form, we know we are 4 wins out of 5 in the Premier League, which is just fantastic. They're off the back of 3 draws in a row, so they haven't lost for a few games, which I think, as a newly promoted side, you'd be pretty encouraged about. And then we know we're third in the table. Ipswich are 17th at the moment, which they will definitely take at the end of the season.
mm,
And they do, goals conceded fairly similar with Villa as well. But look at the average goals scored per match. We score, 2 goals per game at the moment. They're averaging zero point 0.6 goals per game at the minute. And
yeah.
we do know that scoring goals is what keeps you in the Premier League. So they'll be looking to turn that around. John Duran, the man, with 4 goals this season, and Ollie Watkins with 3, Amadou Onana with 2 in the Premier League. And then assists, I think we can get assists from all over the pitch. Luca Dean, Morgan Rogers, Yuri Tielemans, Leon Bailey, Jacob Ramsey. So assists and creating goals isn't a problem for Villa. So yeah, I don't think there's too much to read into that other than the fact that, look,
Mm.
goals are in our side with Villa. And, for Ipswich to get anywhere, they're going to have to probably score at least 2 or 3 goals to beat us.
Yeah, and this is what I was saying at the start of the podcast. Like, I think if they get a fast start, I think they will punish us. But I think that it's going to take a lot for them to do that. We're not going to make it easy on them, and they're obviously not going to make it easy on us. But I think experience in the Premier League will kick in. Eventually, it showed against Liverpool. They were all over them in the first 45 minutes, but experience kicked in the Premier League, and then Liverpool washed them away with 2 goals in quick succession. So Ipswich are going to have to be on their ball game defensively, and they are sort of similar to us in the amount of goals they've conceded, but they're not scoring a lot, which kind of goes to show at this minute. So if we do get a win, I think it'd be very comfortable.
Jacobs put there Twanzebe to score 5 own goals. Now, we haven't mentioned old Axel Twanzebe, and it's good to see him back in the Premier League. And I talked about it on the podcast I was on with Talking Town. It's really good to see him back in the Prem and, getting his career back on track, because we would have signed him probably had Man
Mm,
United not wanted him back when we got promoted. And then I thought he got a bit of a rough deal at Man United because I asked him to go back. And then they hardly played him. I think he had a couple of injuries, and then ended up sort of going
yeah.
on a free
Yeah,
transfer.
he said no. They wanted to send him back to us on loan, and he said no. We wanted to stay and fight first place in Man United, and then just didn't get played. Like you said, he'd so many injuries. So unfortunately, that decision is kind of cost him his career a little bit. But in the same sense, I'm kind of happy that he's playing in the Premier League, and hopefully this will probably humble him, like a bit like Ross Barkley. When he was kind of big headed about where he think he should be playing, and he was kind
Well,
of
he's
humble by
gone
the
from
move to
League
Luton,
One
and
right
then
up
look at him.
through for them. Yeah, he's gone right through from League One. So,
Mm,
fair play to him, absolutely. And it'd be nice to see him. I mean, Mark, who I was chatting to for our sort of in the away end preview, and check that out, guys, if you can. He was saying that he's probably been their best defender this season so far. He
mm,
feels like he's kind of got better the higher level that he's played at. So be interesting to see what he's like. He's currently playing right back as well. Kieran McKenna likes that sort of defensive right back that can slot in. So Twanzebe fills that role, and that Leif Davis, he's the one who goes forward. So be interesting to see how that pans out. We're
mm.
starting to get predicted score lines in, so I'm going to get yours in a second, Martin. But
Yeah.
let's go through a few comments already. Alan says 3-1 Villa on Sunday, 1-0 Villa on Wednesday. So getting his prediction in
Uh,
early for
yeah.
Wednesday.
Let's not
History
look at
will
Wednesday, folks.
repeat
Sunday,
itself.
Sunday, Sunday.
Luke says 3-1 Villa at the weekend. Can't even call the Munich game. I don't think we have enough defensively to keep the score down. Have to just outscore them. I think it's going to be so hard to contain ourselves before Wednesday. Paul said if we score early, I fancy 4 or 5, but they are hard to break down. So 2-0 to Villa, Watkins and Bailey.
Good shout.
And have we got anyone else? Deontay says Ipswich 1, Aston Villa 2. Martin, what are you saying for the score on Sunday?
I am saying Ipswich 1 because we don't clean sheet at this minute, and Aston Villa 3. I think a goal is going to come from Liam Delap. I think Watkins will get a double,
Mm.
and I think I'm going to back Morgan Rogers to get himself a goal.
I'd love to see Rogers score. He obviously got 2 assists the other day,
Yeah,
so he's due
and
a
he's been
goal
on
now.
about his numbers, and he's proved it in the game against Wolves. So I'm going to back him to get him goal this weekend.
Yeah, well, I hope he does, and I hope Watkins gets 2 because I've kept Watkins as my captain in the FPL league, so hopefully that
I
turns
actually got
around
rid
as
of
well.
him, put in John Duran.
I've got Duran in as well, so yeah.
Because normally when I put in Watkins, like he doesn't do well, and then when I get rid of him, he peaks. So I'm just keeping him out. That's it.
Captain Villa says 2-1 Villa, Duran at the 92nd minute. Wow, I don't want
If
to
that
leave it
happens,
that late.
Liam's in that away end, I'd say.
3-1 Villa, says Cloudy with a chance of UFOs. Gary said a tough 2-1 win.
Yeah.
Dicky said every week I say a statement win. It's going to be this week a 4-0 win. Kay says 3-1 Villa, Watkins, Ramsey, and Duran. Jacob said Villa to win and Torres to score.
Good
And
show.
Lena says 4-2 Villa. And Kevin says 2-0 Villa, Rogers and Watkins. I am going to say, I've said it all week, 2-1 Villa. I think it will be a tough one. I don't think we'll keep a clean
Well, it's
sheet.
not like you
As
to say
we don't.
2-1 Villa now, Rich, in fairness.
Well, I said 3-1 last week against Wolves, and I was proved to be correct. I
Yeah.
said
So,
I say 3-2 against Everton. I think I said 3-1 against Everton. So it was 1 goal out there, and I think I said 2-1 against Leicester. So I have been all right with predictions of late. But yeah, I just think 2-1. Similar kind of style to the last away games. I think we'll go. I think this time we'll probably go 2-0 up though, and then I think they get a goal, and we kind of hold out at the end. But I kind of agree with who said if we get one early we could get a fair few.
I think that was
Paul. I kind of agree with Paul. If we
yeah.
do score early, I think we do get 4 or 5
Yeah,
because
I think so as well. Because if you
yeah,
get one early against a team like Ipswich, they'll try to go for the game, and then we can just open them up. So I
yeah.
do agree with that statement. But at the same time, if we don't get one within the first 15, 20 minutes, it's going to be a sticky one.
Yeah, yeah. Matt on X says 3-1 Villa, Bailey, Watkins, and Yuri. And Chippy Bailey says 3-1 Villa, Leon, Morgan, and Esri. And yeah. And Gary said I'd take 2 draws to get a win against United. We got to win them all, mate.
Win them
You
all,
know,
Gary. Come on, back
this
yourself, Gary.
this
Gary.
little kind of teaser. Rodri out for the season.
Yeah, let's
Arsenal.
talk. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk. Come on, drum
Arsenal
rolls, please.
obviously step into, I say, not quite favourites. I say Man City are still favourites. Liverpool, do we know how they're going to cope with when the going gets tough with Arne Slot? Villa
Yeah.
is it potentially our year? Could it be if we can stay clear of injuries? Could it be dreamland?
If we stay clear of injuries, and we know what Man City are like without Rodri and De Bruyne, because De Bruyne is out for a considerable amount of time as well, not as long as Rodri, of course. I think we could be in a title race. Like, I really do. And I don't say that quite openly. I don't. I'm more of a conservative and realistic Aston Villa fan, as some of you may know. But I think with the injuries that have happened to Man City with Rodri, De Bruyne, I think Ake's out for a while as well. Key players to their team. Would you bet against us?
There you go. There you go.
Read me mind, Paul. Look at that. Good man.
I think we've got an Ipswich fan in saying it's going to be 2-1 to Ipswich. That we will score first, and then they'll come back in the second half. But yeah, we'll see. But look, these type of games, the likes of, with all due respect, Ipswich, and then going into a game against Manchester United, Ipswich, you have to be winning if you want to have any designs on title challenges or being in the race
It's beating the
after
lower
Christmas
opposition,
or
yes.
whenever. You've got to be beating these teams. So
Yeah.
let's not take it lightly. We've been saying this all
Well,
night. We've
hmm,
got to go in and do a professional job.
yeah. Right. But remember last time we had a week of where we were playing against two top caliber teams in Man City and Arsenal, and we won the two of them. Could this be the same scenario? We beat Bayern and Man United in the 1 week.
Well, look, it's
Like if
look,
like I'm saying now, if
it's
we
an
beat Bayern and
exciting
Man
time.
United in the 1 week, no one is going to see me on this podcast for a month. I'll be off gallivanting in Birmingham again.
Look, it's a great time. It's a great time, and we've had a great start to the season. We just need to make sure that we do the job against Ipswich on Sunday. And KTF FTF Walker, you'll have to tell me what that stands for. Has actually said it's going to be 2-1 to Villa. So he's actually saying that Villa win 2-1. So fair play.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But yeah, look, it's going to be a great game, and I'm really looking forward to it. I really like Ipswich. I'm so glad that they're back in the Premier League, and I hope that they stay up. And I really do wish them luck for the rest of the season after Sunday. Of course, this is a massive game for Villa as well, because it could, results go away, could see us top of the table, but also definitely keeps us in touch for the rest of the teams and in that top 4 spot, and takes us into Wednesday on the best of form. But I think that does us for tonight. We'll obviously be back with instant match reaction on Sunday with myself, hopefully after a victory. We'll also do the full match reaction, the Lions Raw, possibly Sunday night, possibly Monday night. It just depends how our diaries align. Then it's another game to talk about. I'm not sure it's quite a big game. It's a fairly big game. Yes, it's Bayern Munich. We are going to be match previewing that. Fans Forum as well. We'll try and squeeze in. Talking tactics, you name it. We've got so many shows coming up. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel. Hit that like button on your way out if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Help us on the road to 5K. Martin, thank you for jumping on tonight on a Friday night. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.